Hello, how are you? All good? Yeah. As the title of the video says, I am reviewing the TCA once again. I did a previous two-part video on it, and I thought it would be a good idea to just come back to the TCA and read a bit about it because I think a lot of English, particularly English, not saying British, English YouTubers do not seem to understand it, and a lot of rejoiners in the UK also don't seem to understand it, and a lot of Brexiters also continue to not understand it. At least not from the at least not from the reactions I have gotten in other channels about when I commented on it. So, without further ado, let's go directly to the site. This is the European Commission's site, okay? This is an official website of the European Union, and how do you know? Press here, okay? See? Europa EU domain. Now, this is the summary that I analyzed of the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. No, let's read it and let's analyze each chapter. First, here you have the page contacts that you can access. Just press here and it will go directly to it. And just to this, for example, see, you go directly to the free trade agreement. Now, a normal website, very simple to understand in English. If you want to find this, just use your search engine, sorry, and literally just select this part. Just write this in your search engine, and it will lead you to this page. Now, this is of course in the Commission, so you will have here protecting the European Union's interests, ensuring fair competition and continued cooperation in areas of mutual interest between the EU and the UK. Here you have a bit of just a start, just to introduce you to what the TCA is, when it was made, when it was signed, and when did it enter into force. So the first thing you will see is that, unlike what some Brexiters say, this is the date of the UK leaving. And okay, let's continue. It says here how and why the agreement was achieved, what it sets out to do, meaning preferential arrangements in areas such as trading goods and services, digital trade, etc., etc., etc. But cooperation and participation in union programs, European Union flagships, and the respect, and it's underpinned, meaning they decided upon it, underpinned by provisions ensuring a level playing field and a respect for fundamental rights. They also describe the most important part of the TCA that I talked about, I believe, in the first video, that it says this by no means matches the level of economic integration that existed while the UK was a EU member state. The TCA goes beyond traditional free trade agreement and provides a solid basis for preserving a long-standing friendship and cooperation. These are all fancy words, but what this basically says is that the TCA is no replacement for being a EU member. Okay? This is when the TCA was signed, the 30th of December 2020. When did it became to be applied provisionally? And call it an adaptation period as of 1st of January of 2021. And when did it enter in force? when it had to be absolutely respected. The 1st of May of 2021. So, as you can see, this is rather simple to understand. You have the part the way you can see, and you, if for example if it was in the a UK site, it would probably say protecting the UK's interest in ensuring a fair competition and continued cooperation in areas of mutual interest, either that or something very similar. But from the start, the TCA had defined periods. It had a period when it was signed, then how long to adapt to it, and then when would it become enter into force. So any excuses given by the Tory government, they gave them when they already knew this. Do you understand? When they said we were not expecting this, we were not expecting that, well, you should have expected it because you read it, because you agreed upon it, because you signed it, and because you knew when it would come into force. If you don't, well, explain that to your voters. Let's continue. Here, you can download the full text in your browser. You don't even need to download it to an exterior source, from an exterior source, and read it word by word. If you can understand continental law, if you can understand law, you can read it. But if you can't, just watch this video and see the summary. I will try to be as clear as possible, trying to explain it. This is what the TCA consists of. This is a little summary, a general view of what it is. It's a free agreement, trade agreement. It's a close partnership on citizen security and an overarching governance framework. Okay, let's dig into this. This is then the summary of these items, and then here we will read them in detail. Now, this is the part that at least here in the EU it was decided to be written here in this summary so people understand a couple of things and there are no doubts. No doubts about that foreign policy, external security, and defense cooperation is not covered by the TCA because the UK did not want to negotiate this matter. Do you understand? A common foreign policy or an alignment, an external security, meaning protecting each other, defense cooperation, continue to cooperate with the other member states of the EU in anything that involves common defense. The UK said no. The EU was willing to negotiate it. The UK, no. Since January 2021, there is therefore no framework in place between the UK and the EU to develop and coordinate joint responses to foreign policy challenges like the one we are having in the United States of America and the one we had after this with Russia invading Ukraine, for example. For instance, the imposition of sanctions on certain countries, nationals, or economies. Okay, this is an important part because it explains a lot of what is happening today. It changed a little, by the way, because Starmer is trying to change some of this. But now, in addition, the TCA does not cover any decisions relating to equivalences for financial services, the adequacy of the UK data protection regime, or the assessment of the UK's sanitary and phytosanitary regime for the purpose of listing it as a third country allowed to export foods products to the EU. Indeed, these are unilateral decisions of the EU and are not subjected to negotiation. What does this all mean? In terms of financial services, in terms of data protection, let me just zoom into me again. This means that things such as data protection, your data and our data, the data of EU citizens in this case, is not covered by this agreement. And also the assessment of the sanitary and phytosanitary regimes in the quality and safety of food. Because what was told to the UK, and I know this because I heard the negotiators speaking about it. I don't know about it in the UK, but around here, almost every day, there was a resume of what they were trying to decide or not decide. We knew it. But what this means is that in order to be a third country allowed to export freely to the EU food food items, the UK would have to, for example, to compromise and accept the rules of origin, accept the supervision of an entity that could be a third party entity, a laboratory, for example, create a laboratory to ensure the UK the food that the UK was trying to export to the EU was adequate and was according to the rules of the EU. And you have to remember, this is our market. If we want to sell to your market, it's your job to see if the food and whatever we send there is according to your rules. If you send it here, it has to be according to our rules. So this is not a question of punishment, this is not a question of schadenfreude or whatever. It has absolutely nothing to do with this. It's purely technical. Okay? It's purely we have a single market, we have a customs union, and everything that enters here has to respect our rules that we all decide in the parliament and in the commission. So this is not very hard. But the other part that I talked about of the external security and all of that, that was not the UK did not left the discussion of the agreement with that part decided because it did not want to. And this part of the phytosanitary and sanitary and phytosanitary regime, the UK did not leave with an agreement on this regard because it did not want to compromise in absolutely anything. It just said no, 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 and off they went to create their UKCA brand. That is worthless. Okay, now let's continue. The Free Trade Agreement, a new economic and social partnership with the United Kingdom. This agreement covers not just trade in goods and services, but also a broad range of other areas in the EU's interest. Remember that we are in the EU side, so it's like the EU Commission speaking with us, the citizens of the member states, such as investment, competition, state aid, tax transparency, blah 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 blah, etc. Now, it provides for zero tariffs and zero quotas on all goods that comply with the appropriate rules of origin. Going back to that which I said, the UK could have negotiated this. So, there won't be any tariffs or any quotas on products exchanged between the parties that fall under these rules of origin. Both parties committed to ensuring a robust level of playing field by maintaining high levels of protection in areas like environmental protection, fight against climate change, carbon pricing, social and labor laws, tax transparency, state aid, and effective domestic enforcement, binding dispute settlement mechanism, and the possibility for both parties to take remedial measures. This means that any issues are solved through this binding dispute settlement mechanism, and any of the parties can take remedial measures if they find that the other party is not doing enough. And the robust level playing field means that to have an equality of opportunities be for both parties in the law. What does this all of this that I said mean? It means that there won't be, for example, no the EU or the UK won't create a special regulation that they know will undermine the other party's ability to work under the rules that they decide in the TCA. Simple as that. And remedial measures. It says it's, for example, the EU did what it did to start procedures against the UK for not complying with the TCA. The UK can do absolutely the same. The EU and the UK agreed on a new framework for the joint management of fish stocks in the EU and UK waters. The UK will be able to further develop British fishing activities, while the activities and livelihoods of European fishing communities will be safeguarded and natural resources preserved. This is a very important one due to the issues of the fishermen in the UK. This simply says that we will continue to manage the fishing stocks both in EU and UK waters in those areas where both UK fishermen and EU fishermen fish. But we will, of course, have to protect our own fishing and investing in our own fishing communities, and of course, we will also have to protect our natural resources. So, for example, in the UK waters, the UK will be responsible for allowing and not banning or forbidding, for example, French fishermen to fish. The UK will be responsible for supporting their own fishermen, and the UK will also be responsible to monitor their waters and see if there is a need to, for example, banning fishing in during a certain period of time for everyone, not just the EU fishermen, but also the UK fishermen. And this is goes back to the equal playing field. Okay, and this all of this is the in their waters. It's the UK's responsibility. In the EU in the EU waters, it's the responsibility of the EU. In this case, of the respective country. For example, France. For example, I don't know, the Netherlands, whatever wherever there are EU waters, it's our responsibility. UK waters, it's your responsibility. Now, so my dear fisherman, when you say this was not the Brexit you wanted, when you say this, when they say you were fooled or whatever you sometimes often say, I'm sorry, but the people that explained to you what this was, what leaving the EU meant, what the TCA meant, they are the ones that fool you. But yet you continue to vote for them. No? Farage and Reform, they seem to be okay because you voted for them. Okay? So whenever you start to have any doubts about it, you go and talk with him. Go down to Clapham if you can find him and ask him about it. Let's continue. Now, this is the part. This one is rather simple. This is talks about transport, okay, and the rights of passengers and workers in business. This is just a way of telling that look, we'll continue to have ways to transport people in between the UK and the US to do business, but this part is important. Market access falls below of what the single market offers. Meaning, this is not a substitution for the free movement. There is no free movement. There is only a promise of keeping things balanced. for example, the business to know with what are the prerequisites to travel, for the passengers to know what are the prerequisites to travel, for the workers to know their rights, for all of this, it's very simple. And it's just to, for example, that the tunnel and the tunnel to England from France to continue to be operated, to be able to be operated, all of that. These are simple provisions that do not replace the single market rules, of course, because checks will have to be done because it's it's simple. The UK is not a part of the European Union. When when a passenger crosses the border, the passenger is crossing a border. It's not in the Schengen space. Okay? I don't know why people keep on confusing this. I really can't understand. Now, on energy, this part is very simple. I won't even read all of this. This just basically means that EU companies can and UK companies can continue to trade in between the countries to sell energy, to, for example, create ways of, for example, France to sell energy to the UK or the UK to sell energy to France, whatever. It's rather simple. It's exactly what is written here. Social security coordination. This is also very simple. Let me just focus on myself because it will be simple. Now, imagine this, for example. You are a UK national. You have been working all your life or whatever in the EU, say, let's say France, and now you want to return to your country. This is I will explain the rest, but this is the first part. Uh, and you have been working for 20 years in France. You have been deducting from your pay your taxes. Some of those taxes have been going to your future pension, because that is how it works here in the EU, in all countries. We deduct a part of our pay that goes to a fund that then will serve, in theory, to pay for our pension when we retire. And now you go to the UK and you want to receive your pension in the UK. There are situations where if it is possible, where you can continue to collect your pay that you receive in France in the UK. But many countries have conditions. I know, for example, and this is a country that is in the single market, but I know, for example, the situation of Switzerland. I know people that worked their entire lives in Switzerland. And when they retired, they decided to come back to Portugal, to come back to their native town or whatever, to spend their retirement with their family or whatever. Many conditions. In order to continue to receive their pension in their bank account, sometimes it might be a Swiss bank, but that is also indifferent because Swiss banks can have branches and work inside with clients in the EU. They have conditions. Last I saw, one of the conditions was that they had to spend at least 3 or 4 months in Switzerland. They could spend the rest of the year in Portugal, but they had to spend those 3 or 4 months. But suppose that the person does not want to do that. What can a person do? For example, I'll give you the example of the Englishman again. The Englishman goes to the social security in France, and they say, "Look, I'm retired or I'm retiring, and I want to go back to my country and receive my pension there from the English state, the British state." Okay, and they say, "All right." They make the mathematics, the account, whatever. They see how much money that person has to receive in their future pensions. They give him a declaration. They communicate with the UK authorities, and Mr. Englishman retires, goes back to his home, I don't know, in Cheshire. He goes back to Cheshire with this declaration. He goes to his social securities, and they see, yes, here it is, your pension. It's all is good. You are now going to receive this amount of money in your future, in your pension when we start to pay. Okay. And even if Mr. Englishman is not retiring, but he asks for it, he goes to the Social Security and they'll tell, look, yes, this amount of money will go into your pension when you retire. And then the second part are the rights of people, of the EU residents that stay in the UK, the UK residents that stay in Europe, so they can continue to have their rights, their social security rights, and other rights, like permanence and all of that. Simple, not complicated. Let's continue, okay? And finally, and this is a part that sometimes amuses me because of the lack of understanding of most YouTubers about this. This agreement, the TCA, it enables the UK to continue to participate in a number of flagships in EU programs for this period. That is renewable, just like the TCA. And if there is no reason not to renew it, the EU will not cancel it. At least the EU. That is the continued participation of the UK in the number of flagship EU programs for this period. And then here is a part such as Horizon. Sorry. And then here is a part that, for example, the Brexiters call EU punishing us, and all sorts of. I, I have no words about it. Subjected to a financial contribution by the UK to the EU budget. And why is this so hard to understand? Look, when the UK was inside the EU, it participated to the budget of the EU that then distributes this money, these funds, let's call it, because sometimes it's not cash, it's a promise of pay, for example, in the project. Suppose this money goes to the whole Horizon project. And then that project, the Horizon, pays and subsidizes universities, companies, private companies, public companies, individual people, mm, activities, scientific studies, scholarships, an endless number of things that are related or in the scope of this program. Now, the UK leaves. The UK no longer contributes to the EU budget that pays for these projects. So, what does this financial contribution means to the budget? It means that if, for example, the budget of Horizon is X number of euros, a simple a simple mathematical calculus is done, and then the UK we say, look, you have to pay this X amount of money in order to continue to participate in this, and and under the supervision of the project. It's not even the EU; it's the project itself, the flagship. That is an entity that has rules, that has mechanisms in order to be surveilled and controlled and inspected all of its different projects and all of its different mechanisms and studies and whatever. And for example, you can have Mr. Joe working in a lab in London that is receiving subsidies from the Horizon project in order to continue to do his work. And he's doing it in London. Okay? Is this hard to understand? Is it hard to understand what did these people expected? That the EU would pay for everything and expect and were they expecting, for example, that we would be paying from our taxpayers' money for the grace of having UK researchers in our flagship? Would you? I'm asking you. Would you accept this? This isn't hard. All of this instead of that, what did the UK did? He created the Turing and funded by you. Instead of being in a project with all the countries in the EU and beyond, go Google it, use your search engine, and go see how many countries participate in the Horizon project. And from different parts of the world, they are all contributing to the project and receiving the benefits of it, which is very important. And it has broader effects than the simple participation. You know, there is exchange of information, there is exchange of funds, there is contacts, there is a lot of things that come with this. You know, for example, I worked with Mr. Joe in a project to develop a better telescope. And right now I'm in my business. I'm working for, I don't know, Mr. Jason from Germany that is developing a new telescope to sell in the commercial business. And I say, look, let's hire Mr. Joe from London because I worked with him. The guy knows exactly what he's talking about. He's an excellent exit. Let's hire him to work with us. This is an example. This is how you have to think. You cannot think in things just for the immediate example. You have to see the consequences. The time the UK is losing and money with the Turing, which is not a bad idea, and which has had some results. I'm not saying it doesn't have, not at all. The UK could be a part of a horizon. Thousands of investigators in the UK could be benefiting of it, and with it, that would be another proof that the UK is, with good faith, cooperating with their counterparts in the EU. Why hasn't Labour yet done anything about this? Because they are afraid they are going to lose votes? Will they be losing votes when they know that, for example, a UK scientist working under the Horizon project has discovered a new process of I don't know. This is a dumb example, but has developed a new way of curing the common cold, and that the UK will also benefit of this. It's look, I'm honest. I simply cannot understand it because it's stupid. It's simply stupid. It has absolutely no logic. Now, let's finish up the analysis. We are nearly done. Okay, this is further information. You can click here, and there are simple explanations about the different subjects: trade, tax, taxation and customs, information, guidances, all of that is here. And that was also available if they wanted to UK people. This is one of the reasons why I usually, in answering to friends, let's be clear, I told them, look, instead of going to the UK sites, just go to the EU sites and get your information there because you will be much more informed. And it was true. In the UK sites, I saw a lot of things that were contradictory. I saw a lot of things that were wrong, from the permanence of people of UK citizens in the EU, from the traveling, from all of that. Look, let's not go. We will go into that in another video. Now, another item: new partnership for citizen security. You know, a new framework for law enforcement and judicial cooperation in criminal and civil law matters. And it recognizes the need for strong cooperation between national police and blah blah blah. What does all of this mean? This means that the TCA also establishes a new needed framework so that the UK and the EU continue to have a cooperation in civil matters, in criminal matters, in criminal investigation, in tackling international criminal syndicates and all of that. Just like it happened recently here in Portugal with the Americans and the British and the Portuguese and the EU authorities catching a huge load of cocaine that came in a submarine from South America into Europe. You know, and this has continued more or less. It was very hard during the Tory period. Right now with Starmer, things are in Labour, things are much easier, and we have to say it. They have been getting better. I hope it continues this way. Now, it also builds new operational capabilities, taking in account of the fact that the EU, UK, as a non-EU member outside the Schengen area, will not have the same facilities as before. This means that there is some leniency to allow the UK to adapt itself to cooperate with the EU by respecting, and here is the security cooperation can be suspended in case of violations by the UK of its commitment to for continued adherence to the European Convention of Human Rights and its domestic enforcement. Do you know what this means? Let me focus back on me again. This means that all the people, reform, Tories, talking about we must leave the ECHR, they were risking. This is just one of. I think I want to make a video about the ECHR and its consequences and the needed existence of it in order for many things to function. Let me just tell you this. If the UK was not a part of the ECHR, it probably wouldn't be able to function as a country in Europe. But this aspect, when they speak about tackling the criminal gangs and doing this and doing that, that will never be possible if the UK leaves the ECHR, because the ECHR defends fundamental rights of people, and the EU has committed itself to protect fundamental rights of people. Does it make justice a bit slower? Yes. But, quoting a teacher, it is better to free 1,000 guilty persons, than arrest one single innocent. This is the price we have to pay for being a democracy. It's a price I'm willing to pay. Is it a price you are willing to pay? Or do you want to live in an authoritarian regime that might lock up innocents or, I don't know, kill innocents to catch a probable guilty party? But whenever they talk about this shit talk about leaving the ECHR, tell them to read this. Tell them to read this. And if they continue not to care, then tell them that perhaps next time they are visiting Portugal in the Algarve, for example, taking a sunbath, you pee off a cop, he decides you are a dangerous criminal, he locks you up, he presents you to a judge, You have no way of defending yourself because you are not in the ECHR and don't respect the laws. Your government isn't doing anything about you. And if the judge is drunk or he doesn't like you, he puts you at least 6 months in a jail cell with some big guy called Baba calling you his sweet mouth until you are able to prove the cop was just pissed at you and the judge was drunk and you can go back to your house. This can happen. This is a joke, okay? It will be extremely rare for something like this to happen because we have authorities that supervise cops, supervise judges, supervise everyone. And even if you were not a member of the ECHR, you would have those rights here in Portugal. The issue here is what you subject yourself to. And of course, then you don't have any type of cooperation. You ask, for example, hey, this guy, he's even a Portuguese national. This guy Antonio, this guy is a badass. He did this and he did that here in England. Deport him. You know what the answer will be? No. You you do not ensure that this guy Antonio, you will have his fundamental rights defended in the UK. So no, we won't deport him. You want to send the case file to us? Send it. We'll analyze it. And you send it, and it's stuck in a shelf for a couple of years or whenever someone decides to pick it up and do something about it. In the meantime, Antonio, the bastard, continues to do whatever he does, continues to live his life merrily. You won't be able to enter the country and abduct him, or else you will be facing an international crime of huge consequences. So, whenever someone talks about dumping the ECHR, you tell him to read this. And tell him also to read the ECHR and see what it is. And know the ECHR is not an EU court, it's a European court. Europe. Do you understand the difference? God. Let's continue. We're nearly ending this. A horizontal agreement on governance, a framework that stands the test of time. Sounds like civilization. Maybe the guy who was a fan of civilization. Now, there's a lot of things here, but what does this mean in the end? This means that there is a direct line of communication between the UK authorities and the EU authorities, and that they are trying to continue to control it. They have a joint partnership council to make sure the agreement is properly applied and interpreted. It also says that there is binding enforcement and dispute settlement mechanisms that will ensure the rights of business consumers and individuals are respected. This this is even simpler. This means that both parties have the right to impose sanctions when either party does not comply with the TCA. But it also means that it also enforces the idea that we want to keep business flowing, but under the rules. We cannot bend the rules, and this is something that rejoiners, for example, do not understand. Also, the specifics. This part is important. Also, specific suspension clauses apply to the cooperation on law enforcement and judicial cooperation in case of party breaches obligations. Uh, well, let me just drink some water. What does this all mean? This means that we want business and people to have a certainty on the rules. Okay. We want that, for example, a tourist before he enters in the EU, he or she must know the rules the 90-day rules, all of that. But it was the job of the UK government to inform their citizens of this, not the EU. Just as it was the job of the EU to inform their citizens. The difference here is, and this is fundamental, is that here in the EU you must know the rules. You are binded by law to know the rules. The state does not have to go around and, for example, tell you that when a police officer tells you to stop, you stop. When a police officer asks for your identification, you give him his identification. Just as you can ask the police officer, why are you stopping me, sir? And why do you want my identification? And the police officer has to tell you. But in the UK, I always give this example because I think it's simple. In the UK, an authority decides that it is forbidden to pet pink rabbits. Okay, and in the EU, no, an authority also decides that it's forbidden or forbade, sorry, to pet pink rabbits. Hmm? What's the difference? In the UK, there has to be a sign near the place where the rabbits are saying if you pet a pink rabbit, this and that will happen. Okay? And if that plaque is not there, you are found frolicking in the lawn, petting pink rabbits. And when you go before a judge, the judge asks if the judge asks you, it's forbidden or it was forbade to pet pink rabbits. Why were you petting them? And you say, me, I didn't know. Oh, all right. This is a simple example. Same situation. In the EU, no plague, nothing. Frolicking in the lawn, petting pink rabbits. The cop arrives and says, "Don't you know that is forbidden?" You, no, I don't. Okay, come with me. He takes you to the judge. Did you not know that it's forbidden to pet pink rabbits? And you say, no, I wasn't. No, I didn't know. I'm sorry. What? You did not know? That law was published in an official document. Oh, but I didn't read it. Well, if you didn't read it, you should have known it. But you won't get the full sentence because you are saying you did not know it, and I believe you. If I didn't believe you, you would get the full sentence. But here you go, a crime of involuntary petting of a pink rabbit. Did you get the difference between so-called continental law and so-called Anglo-Saxon law? This is a technical distinction. Did you get this difference? No? I will explain it to you. In Europe, citizens are bounded by law to both know their rights and their duties. Or both. No. A police officer, when he jails me, he might have to inform me that, look, you do not need to speak. But he does not have to grab the Miranda laws or whatever and describe me my rights. It is my duty to know them. They just need to inform me if I ask. If a police officer didn't say, look, do I need to speak about this? And the officer can tell you, no, you do not. But this is an information. It's not the same thing. You are responsible. Following the old Greek model on which all republican systems, republican from republic, has nothing to do with whatever a republican is in the US. Nothing to do. It has to do with with a citizen of a republic, which is to be ruled by your equals. Okay, but it goes back to the rights of the city in Greece, in which The citizen is responsible for the matters of the city. I, as a citizen, have rights and I also have duties before the city. So I need to know what my rights are and what my duties are. The city does not have to proclaim and tell me and remind me each and every moment of the day, you have the right to this, you have a duty to do this. No, I have to know that. I have to know that just as much as I must stop and must identify myself before a police officer, that I must also know that that officer also has to tell me why. When you get stopped by a police officer here, they tell you why. They must tell you why. Or they can tell you something like this. They can tell you, I cannot inform you of that, sir. You will have to come with me. You will speak with my superior officer. You will speak in the court. They will inform you of why I was told to detain you and take you. For example, I'll tell you this: when a person, for any reason, refuses to appear before a court as a witness, in certain circumstances, the judge can issue something that is a warrant, and that person has to be brought before the court to speak as a witness. As a witness. No, I'm not talking about a criminal. When the police officer detains the person, he's not arresting him. Arresting is something different. Detains him. He tells, look, here is the warrant. Judge X orders you to be present today in the courthouse at this time to give your testimony as a witness. Why was I detained? Why was that for that? They will inform you of that. And then when that person arrives to the court, the judge always, before he starts to question him, first of all, he already passed to the court officer. And the court officer usually has also a functional duty of informing the persons, because here a court officer is more or less as a custodian when they are usually not armed, only if needed. Okay, if there is need for an armed guard, the police is called. Explains, look, Mr. X, I don't know, you were detained because you refused to come to court, or because you never picked up the letter telling you had to be here in court, or because the judge decided you should have been conducted here to the court because apparently you did not want to come. Just to explain. But before that person is heard, the judge tells him, look, I issued that warrant, or I asked the court officer to send that request because this, and this. Okay, then and that person can even accompany a witness here, can even do that, exert their testimony, accompanied by a lawyer if they want. Hmm? Now, this just to tell you that even though the European Union authorities had no how will you say, no responsibility to inform the British citizens about the TCA and about what we call this is the TCA, we call it also the leave agreement and all of that. They did. Here in Portugal, they did. But it was simply published in the official entities. After that, it's your responsibility. And no one is punishing you, no one is treating you differently. We are treating you exactly as we treat each other, giving you the responsibility for your actions. The state is not your nanny. The state is not your daddy. The state is there to govern the state. It's not there to rule. We don't. We don't have the dictatorships. We don't have authoritarian people telling us where to go, telling us our rights and our duties each and every day of the week. You know? And I think whenever a rejoiner or a Brexiter or a dumb YouTuber stops talking about the TCA like it was this contract that obeys or follows the rules of some kind of gentleman club or whatever, the where you can go. For example, Stama can do his PT tour all over Europe and go to Germany and then go to France like he did. He was doing it, no? Trying, oh, let's spend this, let's spend that. It doesn't work because those politicians in Germany and France, they know that if they even try to do that, first of all, it was illegal, so it won't be applied in any way or form. And secondly, they knew they would be punished in the ballots, okay, because the citizens would vote them out. Because here, when a polit you want to know what I do before I vote? I go to the sites of the parties and I read the government programs to see what they are defending. Simple as that. I want to know what do they defend. And if they are defending things that I don't agree upon, I don't vote for them. If they are promising me a thousand things and a thousand that, I don't vote for them. I want people that are pragmatic and boring because those are the types of people you want ruling your country. You want boring and competent people that take those hard decisions no one wants to take. You don't want a laughing buffoon. You don't want a Boris Johnson. You don't want a Farage. You don't want a Donald Trump. You want politicians that are competent. You don't want laughing buffoons. And I'm not saying any of these guys is a laughing buffoon, no. But they are populists, you know. If they are playing a part, of if it is a part of their nature, I have no idea and I really don't care. But in conclusion, what I want to say is this: the TCA can be renewed, but to renew it, it does not mean it's a renegotiation. There is no renegotiation, or else it wouldn't be a TCA. What the UK can do is, for example, in this part, the EU does not give up any kind of control over the sanitary and the phytosanitary of controlling of foods that enter in the EU to be under EU rules and whatever. The UK can say something as simple as that, as this. Okay, then we will set up a lab or whatever, uh, national a national authority with the cooperation and supervision of the EU counterparts that watch over food and health security and all of that, in order to have in order to produce food that can be exported to the EU. Okay, that is a way. And now you are telling me this. Is that a loss of sovereignty? No. You have to measure sovereignty in the way it affects your fellow countrymen. The UK would only be saying this: I need a quicker way to import and export food in and from the UK and the EU. I need this. And since I am not a member, I have to accept to implement the rules that you decide in your market because I need access to your market. So, what I am going to do is this: I'm going to create an entity that you will be a part of. Two, you will provide us with a, I don't know, the person supervising it doesn't even need to be in the UK. Okay, it might be mandated by the EU authorities to perform that. For example, a veterinarian in the border, making sure the farmer, before importing that livestock into the EU, followed all the rules. This is not the loss of sovereignty. This is being pragmatic. This is being understandable of the rules of, of trade. It's the same as you wanting to go inside someone's house, and sell him cookies, and forcing yourself to sell the cookies. And that person might say, look, no, no, I cannot eat gluten. You are trying to sell him those cookies. I don't know if they have gluten or not. And you say, no, 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 they don't have gluten. And I say, sorry, I cannot trust you. So instead of you entering the house and selling the cookies, there is a guy that was next to you while you were baking the cookies that turns around to your friend and says, look, the guy is kosher. No, the cookies have zero gluten. They're absolutely good for you to eat. And you say, okay, all right, then I'll buy you cookies. Less red tape. And this is perfectly achievable. Just like the youth movement or agreement, all of that is perfectly achievable. And what I see is someone that right now with this entire US confusion should not be in the fence for any longer, because we know exactly what is coming. We saw it in the markets just this weekend, and I can't understand it. Maybe you can explain it to me. But well, I hope this new video on the TCA has helped you understand it. I advise you to go and read it. Read it for yourself. Take your own conclusions on it, and then drop me a comment or something about your opinion on it. Okay? If you can, if you want. Right. Bye.